All right, picture this, man. You ever hear a story so wild that it almost sounds like some kind of myth, like something your older cousin made up just to blow your mind, but then you go back, watch the tapes, dig into the history, and you realize, holy shit, it actually happened? That's Ronaldo Nazário for you. This isn't just another football player we're talking about. This is a dude who, at his peak, looked like the sport had evolved overnight, like someone hit the fast forward button on human genetics, and for a while he was unstoppable, a legit force of nature. But here's the kicker: life had other plans, and the way it all unfolded, man, it's one of the craziest what could have been stories in all of sports. And that's what we're diving into today. So buckle up, because once you hear this, you're not going to want to pause. You're not going to want to look away. You're going to sit there and think the whole time, damn, what if? Man, think about this. You've got this 17-year-old kid coming out of Brazil, skinny frame, big goofy smile, and then he steps onto a pitch, and suddenly it's like you're watching a different species of athlete, like some lab experiment where they fused sprinter speed with ballerina balance and then strapped a rocket to his back. And I'm not even exaggerating. This dude was tearing through professional defenders like they were traffic cones. He wasn't just fast, he had this insane close control where the ball was glued to his feet at full sprint, like picture a Ferrari weaving through city streets but never scratching the paint. And this was before modern sports science, before all the insane training regimens. This kid was just raw chaos and talent straight from the streets of Rio. And by the time he went to Europe, people had never seen anything like it at PSV and then Barcelona, man. It was ridiculous. Like he would get the ball near midfield, drop his shoulder, defenders bite instantly, and boom, he's gone. Goal, easy. And remember, this is against the best in the world, not some Sunday league guys. These are seasoned pros looking like amateurs. And he's doing it at 18, 19 years old, scoring 40, almost 50 goals a season. And the crazy part is the confidence, the swagger, like he knew he was a monster. He'd round goalkeepers for fun, chip defenders, hit that no-look finish. It was like a cheat code in FIFA, but happening in real life. And you see clips of him at Barcelona. Hell, he's running full speed, 3, 4 guys hanging off him, and he just shrugs them off, slides it past the keeper like it's nothing, like he's playing against kids in the park. And at that time, the hype was nuclear. People weren't saying, oh, he's going to be good. They were saying, this is the best player alive, maybe ever. And he was just a teenager. Like, think about how rare that is. Most players take years to grow into their prime. This guy walked in the door, and from day one, he's already breaking the sport. And everybody who saw him, them, the journalists, the fans, even the defenders who got smoked, they all said the same thing. It felt like the future of football had just landed on Earth, and it was wearing the name Ronaldo Nazário on the back of the jersey. Those Barcelona and Inter years were like watching a human highlight reel on steroids. I mean, you pull up old clips and it doesn't even look real. Like this guy was a literal video game character dropped into none. He was at Barcelona for just one season, and in that short time, he scored 47 goals in 49 games. Think about that. He was barely 20 years old, and defenders couldn't figure out if they should foul him, tackle him, or just pray, because once he got the ball and turned, it was over. The way he exploded past people, it wasn't just about speed. It was that first step, that drop of the shoulder, and he's gone. And then he'd do this thing where he'd round the keeper like 5 times in a season, casually, like he was playing FIFA on amateur mode. And when he moved to Inter Milan, the hype was so insane. They called him Il Fenómeno, which is literally the phenomenon, because he was bending reality. You had Italian defenders, the toughest, most ruthless guys in the game, absolute kill, and he's making them look like drunk uncles at a family barbecue, just flying past them with this mix of raw power and balance. And people forget how physical football was back then. The tackles were brutal, the pitches were rough, and yet Ronaldo was gliding through it, scoring goals from nothing, dragging Inter on his back and winning the Ballon d'Or at 21. Youngest ever at that time. Like, let that sink in. He wasn't just the best young player, he was the best player on the planet, period. And even today, guys like Messi and Cristiano will tell you that prime Ronaldo was something different. Because when you watch him at Barcelona and Inter, it's like pure chaos mixed with art. It was violent and beautiful at the same time. He'd bulldoze through 3 defenders and then finish with this calm little touch that made it look easy. And the whole world just sat back and went, holy shit, this guy might actually be the greatest we've ever seen. And you got to understand, that wasn't hype, that was fear and respect from legends who knew they were witnessing something unique. Like football had evolved overnight, and Ronaldo Nazário was the blueprint. Man, this is where the story gets dark, like a movie that suddenly flips from superhero vibes to pure tragic, because Ronaldo was flying absolute peak of the sport, and then boom, his body just betrayed him, his knees specifically. And not just a little injury, we're talking catastrophic, like ligaments exploding, the kind of stuff that makes surgeons nervous. I mean, you can literally go back and watch the footage. He plants his foot, tries to cut, and his whole knee just gives out like it's not supposed to bend that way, and he's on the ground screaming, clutching his leg. And you can see the fear in everyone's eyes, teammates, even the fans, because they all knew they weren't just watching another footballer get hurt. They were watching the best player in the world possibly get broken forever, and it wasn't just once. It kept happening, like this cruel cycle. He'd spend months rehabbing, finally come to look sharp for a few games, and then bang, another injury, more surgeries, more time in the hospital. And remember, this was the late 90s, early 2000s. Sports medicine wasn't what it is today. Recovery back then was almost like gambling with your career. And for Ronaldo, it felt like the dice just kept rolling snake eyes. And you think about the what ifs, like if his knees had just held up, what kind of numbers he would have put up, how many Champions Leagues, Ballon d'Ors, all of it. Because the talent was undeniable, but his body was like not happening. And what makes it worse is that he was so young when it started, right in the middle of his prime years. The time when most players build their legacy. He was stuck on operating tables, and the whole football world kind of mourned, like, damn, we might never see that guy again. And imagine the mental toll too, like you're the most unstoppable force in the sport. Every kid on the planet wants to be you, and suddenly you can't even run without risking your career. That's brutal. That's like Superman losing his powers overnight. And yet he still fought, still tried to return. But those injuries, man, they stole years. They stole magic. And they turned what should have been the most dominant career ever into the greatest what-if story football's ever seen. And here's the wild part, because most athletes, after going through what he went through, those kinds of injuries, that much time out, they're done, they fade away. Maybe they hang around the game for a few years, but they're never the same. But Ronaldo comes back, and it's like he just refused to let the sport forget about him. Like he said, nah, I'm still that guy. And the biggest moment was the 2002 World Cup, dude, because you got to remember the context. This is a guy who basically spent years in surgery, people questioning if he could even run at the top level again. And then suddenly he's back on the biggest stage in football, and not just participating, he's dominating, scoring 8 goals in the tournament, including 2 in the final against Germany. And this wasn't some fairy tale charity ads. This was him actually being the difference maker. Brazil doesn't win that World Cup without him. And that's insane when you think about how much of his body had already broken down. And the thing is, he wasn't even the same version of Ronaldo from Barcelona or Inter. That guy was pure explosive chaos. This was a smarter, deadlier, almost more efficient version. He couldn't rely on the insane bursts of pace as much anymore, so he became a predator, just lethal in the box. Every touch calculated, every finish clinical, and people forget he still went on to Real Madrid, part of the Galacticos, winning La Liga, scoring goals for fun, bagging another Ballon d'Or. And at one point, he became the all-time top scorer in World Cup history. Like, think about that. Dude whose career was chopped in half by injuries still outscored every legend that ever played on the biggest stage. And that comeback wasn't just physical, it was mental, because to drag yourself through that much pain, that much doubt, to climb back up and stand on top of the world again, that's a mindset few humans will ever understand. And the crazy thing is, even legends like Messi, Cristiano, Zlatan, all those guys, they look at him and say, yeah, that guy was the most gifted striker ever, which tells you everything, because even broken, even scarred Ronaldo Nazário still came back and etched himself into football history as one of the greatest to ever touch the ball. And this is where it gets really crazy, man, because every time people talk about Ronaldo Nazário, there's always this giant shadow hanging over the conversation, this massive what if that never goes away. Like, what if his knees hadn't exploded? What if his body actually kept up with his talent? Because you look at what he did despite losing years of his career, despite surgeries, despite being forced to reinvent his entire game, he still won 2 Ballon d'Ors, he still won a World Cup, he still became the top scorer in the history of the World Cup. For years, he still had defenders terrified of him. So imagine if none of those injuries ever happened. We're probably talking about a guy who has smashed every single record before Messi or Cristiano even showed up, like his goal tallies at Barcelona and Inter in those early seasons were video game numbers. Now picture him keeping that pace for a decade. We're talking about 700, 800, easy. We're talking about Champions League stacked up, multiple more Ballon d'Ors, maybe 3 World Cups instead of 2, and he would have been the undisputed greatest ever. No debate, not even a conversation. Because his raw ability was something even the best players today admit they couldn't match.
Like Zlatan literally said Ronaldo was the greatest player he'd ever seen. Messi and Cristiano both grew up idolizing him, and those dudes redefined greatness. Yet even they look at him like, yeah, that guy had something else, and it's almost tragic because you watch those early clips and it feels like you're watching a god in human form, this unstoppable force that football wasn't ready for. And then you see the timeline cut short like a movie that never got its final act. And it leaves this eternal question hanging like, damn, how much better could it have been? Because as legendary as his career was, it always feels incomplete, like there was a whole other level that only injuries kept us from seeing, and that's why people call him the greatest what if in football history. Because we saw enough to know he was special, but not enough to see the full monster he was meant to be. So at the end of the day, man, when you step back and really look at the story of Ronaldo Nazário, it's not just about football, it's about the human condition. It's about how someone can be touched by the gods with this absurd, once-in-a-lifetime talent, and then in the same breath be humbled by the fragility of the human body. And yet even with all that pain, all that loss, he still gave us moments that feel immortal, moments that burned themselves into the memory of anyone who loves this game. And that's the beauty of it. That's why his name still carries weight. Because greatness isn't just about perfect stats or endless trophies. It's about It's about the way you make people feel when they watch you, and Ronaldo made the whole world believe in magic for those few years. He was untouchable, and even his comeback, even the scars, they just add layers to the legend. So yeah, maybe he's the greatest what if in football history. But he's also proof that even half a career from someone that special is still enough to inspire generations. And honestly, that's heavy, that's powerful. That's why we're still talking about him decades later. So if you're out there chasing your own dream, remember that sometimes life will throw you injuries, setbacks, moments where it feels like everything's falling apart. But if you fight through, if you keep showing up, you can still leave behind something unforgettable. So good luck to everybody grinding out there. Keep pushing, keep believing in yourself. And thank you for listening, man. I appreciate the hell out of you.